Welcome to Madlik. My name is Geoffrey Stern, and at Madlik we light a spark or shed some light on a Jewish text or tradition. Along with Rabbi Adam Mintz, we host Madlik Disruptive Torah on Clubhouse every Thursday and share it as the Madlik podcast on your favorite platform. This week's Parsha is Yitro, and today we are joined by a special guest, Vice Director General of the Ministry of Education of Israel, Shikh Muhan Fares, to celebrate Yitro and our Druze brothers and sisters. We marvel at the superlatives that the Torah uses to describe Jethro and how the same characteristics of loyalty, leadership, and integrity are showcased by Israeli Druze today. Maybe in the process we will learn a little bit more about the Druze and about ourselves. So join us for Jethro, Yitro, and the Druze. Well, welcome Rabbi Adam from Dubai, and welcome Shikh Muhan from the border of Israel with. Are you on the border with Lebanon or with Syria?
Beside the border of Lebanon.
Border of Lebanon. You live in a town called Khorfesh?
Yes, I live in a small village, Khorfesh village, in the Upper Galilee, in the north of Israel.
Wonderful. So I just want to make sure everybody knows who you are. As I said, you are at the Ministry of Education, and you promote mathematics and science in schools around Israel. I read a story about a school, a Druze school, that was at the bottom of the rankings of all schools in Israel for graduations, for Bagrut, and you worked with them not by only putting in the best students. Actually, you took students who had even dropped out, and using your methods and your dedication, you made that school one of the highest-ranking schools in Israel. So I am so happy that you are in the Ministry of Education, looking out for all students in Israel and making sure that every student in Israel has the opportunity to advance, to contribute to the world, and to compete. I guess you've taught in school, and once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher. But you're doing wonderful things today. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Now I deal with the STEM education, math and technology, to the whole students in Israel, not especially in the Jewish sector. And we deal with in the whole Israel, in the territory, in the south, in the north, and we doubled the number of pupils that learn 5 points of math in Israel last 5 years.
That's amazing! Wow.
When I was researching the Druze and for this conversation, I came across a quote from President Shimon Peres. And he was talking about the Druze, and we all know in this week's Parsha, we have the only Parsha in the Torah that is named after someone who's not Jewish, and it is Yitro. And what Yitro does is he gives Moses advice. He sees that Moses is spending the day from the morning till night judging every single case. And so Shimon Peres says that Yitro started the first faculty for management, and his first student was Moses. I thought that was an amazing quote to keep in mind as we're talking to someone like you, Muhan, who is truly taking advantage. In your bio, I see you went to the Mandel School of Educational Leadership. You are a mamlitz. You are a guide and someone who is helping the people in the state of Israel to help themselves in the path, in the shadow, in the dugma of Yitro. Yitro is a very important person or prophet in the Druze religion, is he not?
Yes, Yitro is the most important prophet in the Druze faith. And in Israel, besides Tiberias, a big place that Jethro lived there, and every year at 25 of April, Jews go to this place to pray to Yitro. Yitro is the person that with the big prophet in the whole Jews community, not just in Israel, in the whole world, in the whole Middle East.
Now, why that date? Madua hatarikh hazeh?
At this date, because we established the new building in before, I think, 140 years. The day we established the new building was in 25 of April.
Oh, wow.
The building over the grave of Yitro was created on the 25th of April.
There was also some struggles with neighbors about the building. And when we made peace with all, the place established in 25 of April.
And do the Druze use a solar calendar or a lunar calendar?
The Druze use both, the Hijri calendar and the Gregoriani calendar, the best.
So they are like the Jews. They have a leap year to make sure that the two calendars stay synchronized?
No, we haven't special calendars. We use the Bas calendars.
So some of the holidays, I think what you're saying is that some of the holidays are based on the solar calendar, and some of the holidays are based on the lunar.
Yes.
Right? Okay, good. I got it.
So I was preparing for today, and I always had focused on the fact that Yitro gave such good advice. And that he had his own parsha. But what I had never realized until I studied this year was how much love and respect there was for Yitro. In one of the Midrashim, it says that there are 7 names that Yitro has. Of course, the word yeter is like yoter. So it is, yeter is abundant. Chovav, he was loved. Ruel, he was a friend to the Lord. And of course, Ruel is very similar to Re'acha. And we'll see shortly, that comes up to Chever, he was a companion. Petuel, he weaned himself from idolatry. He's in many of the Jewish midrashim, he's very similar to the way we look at Abraham. We'll see that he in our tradition, he studied all the religions of the world, all the idols of the world, and he rejected them. And then Cain, he was a kinai, he was zealous. And then, of course, I believe in Arabic, his name is Shu'aib. Is that how you pronounce it?
In Arabic, it's Shu'aib. S-H. Shu'aib, not Shu'aib. Shu'aib. And Shab in Arabic is nation. Shu'aib, Shu'aib is the father of nations.
So is he looked at very much like Abraham for the Jews in terms of these common traditions that we have, that he was a priest of Midian, that he rebelled against all of the existing religions, and he discovered God on his own. Is that similar to the tradition that you have?
Can you, I didn't understand your question.
So when I looked, also in the Quran, even when it talks about Jethro, Yitro, it makes him very similar to our tradition about Avraham Avinu. That Avraham Avinu discovered God all on his own, and he threw down the idols, the avodah zarah of his time. And in both the Quran and in the Jewish sources, it's very similar. There's a midrash that says that he tried all the other religions. It says that he left no idol unworshipped. Shelo hiniach avodah zarah shelo avda, and then he came to the one God. And I'm just wondering whether within the Druze tradition, it's the same type of understanding of what made Yitro so special.
Yes, in the Quran, we can see Shu'aib, Yitro, in 11 places. And like you say, Yitro came to the Midian and asked him to pray God, and they counseled him. But he tried, and the Midian people was lo yashar.
They weren't honest. They weren't straight.
נכון. הם עסקו במסחר. ומה שהם קנו היה יותר, yes, businessman, but they had שני משקולות, אחד למכירה ואחד לקנייה, ותמיד לקחו יותר ונתנו פחות. They take a lot and give less.
So they had two. They had two sets. They had two sets of weights,
yes.
And they would use the weights to favor themselves. When they sold, they would use one weight, and when they bought, they used another weight. They weren't straight, as you said. They weren't yashar.
Yes, the Shu'aib asked him to be honest, and they לא הסכימו. And I can see, if we speak about the parasha of Yitro, they said to Yitro, to Shu'aib, אם לא היה לך חמולה גדולה, היינו הורגים אותך. If you have a small family, we can kill you, but you have a big family. What we learn from this surah, that it's not enough to be tzodek. You must be with a lot of people beside you to keep the honest and to be good. Okay?
It's very important who your community is.
Yes. So Shu'aib, tell him that they didn't kill Shu'aib because Shu'aib was, he lived with a big community, big family. I think ואז, אם אתה חזק, לא צריך גדול, אבל חזק, אתה יכול גם להביא את הרעיונות שלך. אולי צריך ללמוד את זה עכשיו גם בעולם. אוקיי? לא מספיק להיות צודק. החוזק שלך, הקהילה שלך, החוזק של הקהילה הוא משפיע גם, ומביא את הצדק שלך קדימה.
What you're saying is it's not only important to be correct, but you have to actually influence the world. You have to make an impact on the world. Jeffrey, that's a very interesting idea, right? I mean, we all want to be right, but who cares if we're right if nobody cares? But what you're saying is that we have to be right and we have to make an impact on the world at the same time.
Mm-hmm. As Shimon Peres said, Yitro teach Moses how to manage the population, yes? ואני חושב שמה שיתרו למד את משה, הוא כתוב גם במסמך ההקמה של אמריקה. כתוב ציטוט של יתרו, כאילו במגילת העצמאות, של אמריקה.
You're saying, I'm not familiar with that. What you're saying is that the advice that Yitro gave to Moshe is actually found in the Declaration of Independence. We know, Jeffrey, that on the Liberty Bell is a verse from the book of Vayikra, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land. I'm not sure that in the Declaration of Independence it says the advice that Yitro gave to Moshe. But I just want to take off on that idea, since we're talking about Yitro and the advice that Yitro gave to Moshe. It's very interesting, Moses, when he meets God at the burning bush, at the sneh. So Moses looks at himself as being someone who's very unworthy. He's very humble. He's anav. And then when Yitro looks at him, Moshe seems to be almost arrogant to say, I can handle all of these legal cases on my own. I don't need any help by anybody else. And what Yitro reminds him of is that you need to be humble. If you're going to be a leader, you need to be humble. And one of the things that humility gives us is the ability to recognize that you need help from other people. And I think that's a very important lesson. And it's that lesson that allows Moses to receive the 10 Commandments, the Aseret HaDibrot, from God. Because Moshe, he goes back to being humble. And only a humble person can receive the 10 Commandments from God. So I think that might be what you're talking about, is that's really the lesson that Yitro teaches to Moshe.
Yes.
There's another part of the Torah that talks about Yitro. In Bamidbar, in Numbers, Moshe is asking Yitro to come with the Jewish people, with the Israelites, into the land of the Promised Land. And Yitro says, Vayoma elav lo elech ki im el artzi ve'el moladati elech. And even though there are some traditions, some rabbinic traditions that Yitro converted, I think it's easier and more straightforward to say that he was a tzaddik umot ha'olam, and he wanted to go back to his people. He was their prophet. But what's interesting is that the reason Moshe wanted Yitro to come into the Promised Land, because v'hayita lanu le'enayim, he wanted Yitro to continue being this management consultant, this mamlitz, this advisor, valuable advisor that would open up our eyes and make us see things that we couldn't see ourselves. Rashi, the commentary, says, another explanation is that in the future, whatever things will be hidden from our eyes, you, meaning Yitro, will enlighten our eyes about it. And then he goes on to say, Shene'emar v'ahavtem et hager. So it seems to me this is the chidush that I had this year, that not only is Yitro called Re'acha, he not only is he called our friend, but it could very well be that the one interpretation of V'ahavta l're'acha kamocha and V'ahavtem et hager relates to the unique relationship between the Jewish people, the Israelites, and the children of Yitro, the Ke'enim. Is there a unique relationship between our two peoples?
The relationship between Jews and the Israel people, it's before 1948. I think especially because the connection between Yitro and Am Israel, and another because Jews are minority, and the Jews came to Israel as a minority. So they together became brothers and they built the state. until now, Jews serve in the army, like Jews. I think the connection between Yitro and Moshe, and the statement that Jews and Druze are minorities in the Middle East.
I think that's fascinating. Rabbi Adam, he does something that many Jews have never done in the past. He does conversions, hu mitgaer. And one of the other things that Jews and Druze have in the past is we don't go out and try to convert other people, because we are a minority and we don't want to be a threat. We don't talk about our religion in the sense of trying to convince other people to follow our religion. Again, as you say, because we're minorities, we've developed certain, mechanisms to protect ourselves against persecution. So I think you're absolutely right. There are many things that we Jews have in common with Druze, and much of that comes from the fact that we have been a historically persecuted minority.
Yeah, that point is really a very important point. Thank you so much for raising that point. And the connection between the Jews and the Druze is really something I think people, Geoffrey, there's not enough written about the relationship between the Jews and the Druze. And I think that's really something that, we would all gain a lot by knowing more about that connection.
Well, and I think one thing, and now I'm going to leave the Torah and the ancient texts and talk about today. I think that one of the reasons that the Druze are held in such high regard in Israel is because they also have, as a minority, they've developed a mechanism of being very loyal to the country that they live in. In the Talmud, we have an expression, Dinei de Malchuta Dinei, that you follow the rules of the land that you are in. And it was very important for the Jews as a minority to publish that, to say that. We don't want to be different. We want to obey the rules. But the Druze, as a result, have always fought in the IDF. But to say that they've also fought in the IDF would not be accurate. They have excelled. They have, just like many times in societies, the Jews are only 2% in American population, but we are very well represented. In Israel, even though the Druze, I think, are also only about 2%, when you look at those soldiers who are leading the way, those soldiers, unfortunately, who are wounded and killed in battle, the Druze are represented way beyond the 2% of the population that they are. Am I correct?
Yes, the principle Dina de Malkuta Dina, we use it everywhere. I think also the Druze in Lebanon are very loyal to the Lebanon. The Druze in Syria must be loyalty to the Syrian, and in Israel also. Yes, not just in the army, also in the civil field, you can meet a lot of managers, Druze managers. אתה צודק, אנחנו מצד אחד חיים בישראל, כמו שאתה אומר, עם העיקרון של הלויאליטי, ואפשר למצוא הרבה מנהיגים בכל שדה, in every field, not just in the army, also in the government. A lot of Jews work there in the high level of positions.
So we're coming to the end, and it has been an absolute privilege and pleasure to talk with you. But I'd like to ask you what needs to be done further. I know that 5 years ago there was a very controversial law called the nation-state law. And I really believe that the Druze are einayim. They helped us see the rule and understand unintended consequences. And they brought protests that many Israeli generals, current and past, were on their side, that they help Israel define who it is in a better way. But what needs to be done more for the Druze? Because they are still a minority and they need, you are a perfect example of someone who is serving the whole state in a management position in education. But I think obviously there's more that when we help the Druze, we help ourselves. We become all better for it. What is your vision and what are your concerns for the Druze in Israel today?
Okay, I will speak it in Hebrew. You know,
I'll translate. We'll translate, yeah.
חוק הלאום שנחקק בישראל הוא סתירה קשה לדרוזים בישראל. זה אומר שהם עושים את כל החובות ואין להם כל הזכויות. לא רק זה, אלא הם עכשיו כאילו לא ישראלים. ואתה רואה את ההתגייסות של החברה הדרוזית עכשיו בכל מקום, ובסוף הם חוזרים הביתה, אין להם הגדרה, ויש בעיות של תכנון, בעיות של בנייה, והפחד אצל הצעירים שהחוק הזה ועוד חוקים אחרים שנחקקו, הם ישפיעו על אורח החיים של הדרוזים בישראל, וישפיעו בכלל על כל מהות החיים שלהם פה. זה חוק מאוד קשה, מאוד גזעני, ואין דרוזי אחד שמסכים לאותו חוק. ולכן, my vision, אחרי המלחמה, ממשלת ישראל, כל ממשלה, צריכה למצוא את החוק הנכון, או לבטל את החוק הזה, או לשנות אותו, או לשדרג אותו, כך שהדרוזי בישראל ימשיך להרגיש כמו דרוזי גאה בתוך מדינתו.
The nation-state law that was legislated in Israel was a slap in the face of the Druze of Israel. It says that Druze have all the obligations, but they don't have all the rights, as though they are not Israelis. And you see all the military conscription of the Jews now, for everywhere in Israel, and they come home, they have no protection. There are issues of planning and protection, and the fear that this law and other laws to follow will affect on the quality of the life of the Druze in Israel. It's a very harsh law, very racist, and there is not a single Druze who will accept the law, and therefore, in my opinion, after the war, the state of Israel, any government, has to draft legislation and correct this law, either to erase the law or change it, so that the Israeli Druze will continue to feel proud in their country.
Wow. So what you're saying is that you hope that after the war that the law will be revoked and that the Druze can be proud members of Israeli society.
Yes.
And I think, after reading what we read in the Parsha in terms of how, and I didn't even mention when Moshe came out to meet with Yitro, he bowed down, and the Midrash says that the Shekhinah was there. I think when you take the kavod that we've had for Yitro and the Kinim through the ages, when Shikh Muhan says that this rule was a slap in the face, that was the words that he used, of the Druzim, we have to take that very seriously. And the only thing I would add to what you said, Shikh Muhan, is it's not only a slap in your face, it's a slap in the face of every citizen of Israel, because we have to be one together. And if we can't respect if we learn anything from the history of the Druze and the history of the Jews, it is that if you can't respect the minority, then you can't respect the majority. If you can't see the world through the eyes of the minority, then you've lost your way and you're in darkness. So I just want to finish by thanking you.
In the Torah written, "Dera'a et hakulot," see the voices. So I hope that our leader see and hear the Jews' voice after the war.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And I think in addition to that, we also have to make sure that we take care of our Druze brothers and sisters who are paying the price of the war the same as their Jewish brothers and sisters. We have to take care of the orphans and the widows. We have to make sure that every Druze town has a bomb shelter, a bomb shelter is not only to protect from bombs. A bomb shelter means that you can keep your schools open. You can keep your kindergarten open. Without those, you can't operate in the north. So I think there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot to be inspired by you, Shikh Muhan, and there's a lot to be inspired from Yitro, the parsha that we read this week, and the lessons that we need to learn from it. I look forward to speaking with you further, Muhan, about things that we can do together, but I thank you so much for participating in today's discussion. Toda rabah v'Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Muhan. Thank you so much for participating. Shabbat Shalom. Geoffrey, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for organizing this. This is really important.
Thank you so. Shabbat Shalom.